So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Candid Mack. I am the Programs and Events Coordinator here at National Girls Collaborative. I just want to welcome everyone to Girls Team Ahead with NASA Resources in Action webinar. We'll be getting started in a few minutes. We'll be meeting our extraordinary awardees. Before we dive in, some quick logistics. So you can use the chat to ask questions or share your thoughts during the presentation. We will ask your questions during the audience Q&A portion of our webinar. And also while you're in the chat, please feel free to put the organization that you're representing, your city and your state as well. So for those, in case this is your first time joining us for an NGCP event, I wanted to share a little bit background on who we are and what we do before we meet our speakers. So NGCP is a national network of diverse stakeholders who are advancing the agenda and gender equality. We bring together organizations that are committed to informing and engaging girls to consider STEM. Our vision is to support and create STEM experiences that are as diverse as the world we live in. NGCP believes STEM skills can be acquired by anyone and fostered in everyone. Our initiatives build confidence and create a community of lifelong STEM activators. Our goals are to, 1, build and sustain a network of advocates to provide equitable and inclusive STEM opportunities. The second is catalyze equity in STEM, from research to practice, by providing actionable, knowledge and transforms the STEM experience. And third, increase our collective impact by strengthening organizational effectiveness. You can learn more about our mission and goals on our website, ngcproject.org. So our NGC activities, the National Girls Collaborative projects engaged in many activities virtually and nationally, as well as through local collaborative. Let me share about a few of them, and we will put links in the chat if you would like to learn more about them. NGCP partners with organizations to scale and deliver content such as the Leap into Science National Network, in partnership with the Franklin Institute and the Million Girl Moonshot, in partnership with STEM Next and Vermont After School State Networks, serving hundreds of educators via local networks. Working with the Linda Hill Philanthropies, NGCP manages If Then Collection, a digital library housing photos, videos, and other media of women in STEM fields. Locally, state collaborative leadership teams offer convenient, providing professional development, many grants for initiative projects, funding is available, and more. NGCP also hosts the Youth Advisory Board. The Youth Advisory Board helps to review, provide feedback on current National Girls Collaborative projects, initiatives, and assist in informing the future direction of NGCP. As I mentioned, we'll put a link in the chat so that you know how you can stay up to date with the NGCP activities and events by signing up for our monthly e-newsletters. Now, to introduce today's speakers, I would like to turn it over to NGCP's Assistant Director of Programs, Tara Cox.
Thank you so much, Candid. And one of the amazing partnerships that we have is with the Girls Team Ahead with NASA project, which we'll be talking about today. And here's our wonderful set of presenters today. And I'm going to go through each now. Just pulling up the bios. One moment, please. Oh, that should say Martha Saladino. Welcome, Dr. Saladino. Is the Education and Outreach Scientist. And Martha is at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore. She is involved in the outreach efforts of NASA's Universe of Learning, the Hubble Space Telescope, JWST, and the upcoming Nancy Grace Space Telescope. Martha is deeply invested in promoting diversity in astronomy and engaging the new generation, especially minorities and underrepresented groups in science. And Dr. Saladino has been instrumental in providing these mini awards to our presenters today and to use the resources. Our next presenter is Laura Woody at the Sequatchie County Public Library in Dunlap, Tennessee. Laura Woody is from southeastern Tennessee, just a few miles north of Chattanooga. She completed a Bachelor's of Science in Liberal Studies at Middle Tennessee State University and went on to work for the state of Tennessee in an administrative capacity for several years. In 2015, she took a position in the Youth Services Department in the Cleveland-Bradley County Public Library in Cleveland, Tennessee. 6 years later, she became the assistant director at the Sequatchie Public Library. In her free time, she likes to crochet, watch 80s horror movies, and read science fiction novels. She currently lives with her 2 cats, Mocha and Sweetie, and she's also an enthusiastic fan of the Oxford comma. You'd be happy to know, Laura, that is part of the NGCP. We also use the Oxford comma at NGCP. Next, we have Lindsay Rowe from the Boys and Girls Club of Carson in Carson, California. Lindsay Rowe is the STEM coordinator for the Boys and Girls Club of Carson. She has over 10 years of experience developing and facilitating STEM curriculum to students from historically and colonially underserved communities across Southern California. Prior to her time at the Boys and Girls Club, she developed and led outdoor education programs for multiple outdoor nonprofit organizations. Her passion is re-diversifying the outdoors and providing a safe space for students to engage their scientific curiosity. When Lindsay is not learning about science and students, she can be found photographing insect species across Los Angeles and practicing her bird dancing at powwows. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Ecology, Bachelor Behavioral Evolution, as well as a Bachelor's of Science in Astrophysics from UC San Diego. Welcome, Lindsay. Next, we have Matt Kirshner from South Brunswick Public Library in Monmouth Junction, New Jersey. Matt is the head of the Children's Services at South Brunswick Public Library, his hometown library, where he has worked for over 25 years. Wow, that's amazing, Matt. He spent the last 15 years in children's services and loves teaching and reading and introducing kids and all of the library has to offer. He lives in Bucks County, PA with his wife and 2 hilarious, smart, and stubborn kids. And in his spare time, he enjoys being a dad, hiking, reading, of course, and watching far too much soccer. Welcome, Matt. And our last presenter is Lisa Brumall at the Anna Porter Public Library in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Lisa is a native of New Jersey, like Matt. Welcome, and I'm a Jersey girl too. But she calls Tennessee home. She has worked as a youth services coordinator at the Anna Porter Public Library for only 9 months and loves every aspect of the job. Lisa is enjoying life in the mountains with her boyfriend and her boxer hound, Princess Leia, and her pug, Teddy E. Bear, cute. Lisa enjoys sitting back and drinking a good cup of coffee by the fire and reading a good book. She also loves Star Wars, anything Disney, photography, puzzles, and writing. Wonderful. We have such a diverse and amazing group of folks from libraries and after school programs. Welcome. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Martha, Dr. Saladino, to tell us about the Girl Steam Ahead with NASA program and all of the amazing resources that they've been developing.
Thank you very much, Tara. Okay, so Tara already introduced the slide, so we can move to the next one. Thank you very much. So NASA's Universe of Learning. What is NASA's Universe of Learning? NASA's Universe of Learning is an integrated astrophysics STEM learning program funded by NASA. Astrophysics, that means everything outside our solar system. What we create is resources and experiences that enable learners to explore the fundamental questions in science and experience how science is done. And we want everybody to discover the universe by themselves. So if we can go to the next slide, I can tell a little bit more about how we do this. So NASA's Universe of Learning is a partnership between the Space Telescope Science Institute based in Baltimore, Maryland, the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard and Smithsonian, IPAC, and the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California. So all these institutes, these organizations, have a direct connection to science and the missions of NASA because they are the homes of science operations and communications of some of NASA's missions, such as the Hubble Space Telescope, Chandra X-ray Observatory, the James Webb Telescope, and the upcoming Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. So because we have a direct connection, we also have, with these missions, we also have a direct connection to the scientists and engineers that are involved in these missions. So NASA's Universe of Learning can learn from all of them, and we can create resources and programs that are free for everyone to learn about astrophysics. If we can go to the next slide, please. So what does NASA Universe of Learning do? So NASA's three big science questions are, how does the universe work? Are we alone? And how did we get here? So because of this, we create resources that we categorize our resources under different themes. One of them is life and death of stars. Another one is origin and history of the universe, structure and composition of the universe, other solar systems, other Earths, those are exoplanets, cosmic mysteries, extreme physics and phenomena, and how do we know? So we create resources that fall under all these categories. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we create resources, but we also have different projects, and I'm going to be talking about these two in a little bit. So the reason why I have them separate here, we will understand it later, but basically we know that the universe is gigantic and we want everybody to learn a little bit about everything. So if we can go to the next slide, please. We have different resources for everyone. So we have hands-on activities. Those are activities that you can use in an event just by cutting things, coloring things, etc. We also have videos that can help you put together a program about astrophysics and that will guide you and your audience into learning a new topic. We also have exhibits. We have computer-based activities because, well, you know, like we get a lot of data from our space missions and we want everybody to know how we work with that data that comes, and we want everybody to be able to also explore this type of data. We also have posters, and you may see that here there is a circle with the letters ES written inside. So what does this mean? Well, NASA's Universe of Learning creates, most of the material is in English, but we also have resources that are available in other languages. One of them is Spanish. So I want just to make sure that you know that not all the material is in English and that we also try to reach different audiences. You can see that here there are some QR codes along my presentation. If you scan them, you will be able to land in the pages where all these resources are listed. Here, I only mentioned these 5, but we have many others and you can explore them. They are all free and they are ready for you if you want to use them. Later, if you cannot scan the QR code, you can also click on the resources. These slides are going to be available for you. And if you click on the resources page here, you will be able to go to the page where all of these live. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we know that we have too many resources and that this might be a little bit overwhelming for everyone. So because of that, we also have different projects that are more oriented to different audiences. So can we go to the next slide, please? So I'm just listing here a few of the resources, but we have many others. The Astrophysics Challenge, for example, is an amazing project in which we give you data from NASA's mission so that you learn how to process this data. And if you are happy at the end of learning this processing, you can submit your picture for a contest. This Astrophoto Challenge comes twice a year during the winter and during the summer, and I think it's super fun. We also have a micro-observatory program that aims to get you data. So you can request your own data and you can process this data, analyze this data with your event attendees. ViewSpace is a very nice project that gives you tools to engage your audiences. We have videos about astrophysics and we also have interactives. And we have many resources. We try to make our resources accessible to all. So in the Accessible Learning Project, we have 3D printings, we have sonifications. The idea is to make astrophysics available for everyone so that everybody can learn at their own pace and we have things that are focused for different groups. Can we go to the next slide, please? Now, one of the projects that we have within NASA's Universe of Learning is Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA. GSAWN is the abbreviation. And the aim of Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA is to empower public libraries and community-based organizations to engage girls and their families in STEM. And this is why I'm going to talk about this project specifically in this webinar. So what is, okay, I have told you what Girls STEAM Ahead with NASA is, but now what kind of resources can we offer to you? So we have something that we call the GSAWN Program Cookbook. The GSAWN Program Cookbook is basically that. It's a book that has recipes about astronomy and that can guide you to put together a STEM program that you can run and feel, and we want to make you confident in running a STEM program. If we can go to the next slide, please. So far, we have 4 recipes. The first recipe talks about how the different types of light that exist. The second recipe talks about how we communicate, how we talk to space-based observatories. The third recipe is a very special recipe because it's to celebrate women in STEM. And finally, we just finished a new recipe about the life cycle of stars. So each recipe in this program cookbook comes with a menu of activities and resources that are related to the topic so that you can choose from there how you want to put your event together. We also have background content for you so that you learn a little bit more about the topic that you are going to be planning your event about. And we give you lots of resources, background resources. We also have sample event scenarios. So if this is the first time that you're running an event, this is a very good point to start because we tell you, okay, this event is going to last for 60 minutes, and these are the activities that we are going to use. These are the activities that you can do to engage your audience, etc. And of course, we have tips and adaptations because we know that not everybody learns in the same way. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So within the new recipe that we created, recipe 4 about the stars, we also create 3 new hands-on activities. That is because we listen to you. Facilitators told us we want more hands-on activities. And because of that, we created 3 new ones. One of them is the Stellar Life Cycle bookmark or bracelet, in which basically your participants, you create a bookmark, and then they learn about the different phases in the evolution of a star by putting together beads, or they can put together a bracelet to learn more about stellar evolution. Next slide, please. Okay, we also have a stellar evolution scavenger hunt, and there we use data from telescopes and images and illustrations so that your participants can learn about the stellar evolution by looking at pretty images that telescopes have taken in it. Next slide, please. And finally, we have a flip book. That is a very pretty, I don't think we will be able to see it here, but here I have a manual version of it. The idea is that participants can color and learn more about the stellar evolution while listening to the story of the stars. Next slide, please. Now, okay, here is the movie. It worked. Okay, here what you are seeing is basically some drawings that illustrate the stellar evolution of a star like our sun. Okay, so we know that sometimes talking about astrophysics can be a little bit intimidating, and our idea is that you feel confident in running a STEM program. And because of that, you can also request a subject matter expert. The way you do that is you tell us we want to create an event, but we want a subject matter expert, a specialist in this topic to come and talk to us to discuss a little bit further. If you click on the link that I put here, or if you scan the QR code, you will find more information on how you can request your subject matter expert. Perhaps they cannot come in person, but we will do our best so that somebody can attend your event at least virtually. And the next slide, please. That's my last slide. And this is how you can get in touch with us So if you are planning to put together an event meant for girls and their families, please let us know. We really want to hear about your event, and we would like to help you planning it. Or if you only need a subject matter expert, that's also great. Please request it. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Martha, for a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. If you have any questions for Martha, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll be answering them within the Q&A. So I would like to introduce you to our first presenter of our awardees, Miss Lisa Rowe of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Carson.
Hello, thank you, Candid. So I am Lindsay Rowe. I am the STEM coordinator here at the Boys and Girls Club of Carson. We can go to the next slide. And so what the Boys and Girls Club is it's a national organization, but in each state and county and city, there are distinct little clubhouses is what we call them. And we're essentially an after-school service provider who try to target our young people who need us the most. And we target them through targeted programs that they ask for, and as well as high-yield activities. Next slide, please. And here at Carson, our demographics will probably look very different from the other clubs around the country and even in the state. Of over 3,000 registered students, 33% poll as Hispanic, 28% as Black/African American, 5.1% Asian and Filipino, and 4.5% as other. And then we have a separate category for Latino, and they poll at 3.9%. So we do target quite a minority demographic here in the Carson area. 50% of our registered students, they identify as male, with 48% as female. And then we do have an other/trans binary demographic, and they poll at 0.2%, 0.26%. Sorry about that. And then of all those students, 82% of them do qualify for free and reduced lunch. So it kind of gives you just the overview of our socioeconomic kind of makeup of our children in our community. Of those over 3,000 registered students, about 1,847, that number does change month to month, it gets higher. They attend at least one STEM program, and we have 7 permanent sites. They are after school sites at LAUSD schools. We have 1 clubhouse, which is set apart from our LAUSD schools. And last year we expanded to 18 sites with a primary focus on a robotics program that I introduced to students. You can go to the next slide. So for this GSAWN event, I wanted to target 2 specific locations. Due to the socioeconomic boundaries and barriers that our students face, they are incredibly wary and a little negative towards STEM. They come into our programs, and I hear it all the time, that they feel they are not smart enough for STEM. And 9 out of 10 times, that is a girl that says that to me. So I targeted one of our high schools, which is King Drew. It is based in Compton. And I wanted to target them because they're heavy in career focus right now. And I really wanted to expose our girls there to the Black, Indigenous, women of color in space science. I also targeted another school site called 186th Street Elementary, and I targeted them. They were elementary up until about 6th grade. We would take them for that program, and I targeted them for their STEM interest in building that confidence, because our youngest ones, they're not confident in themselves at all. Next slide, please. So the actual event took place at King Drew Magnet High School on July 20th. I targeted the specific activities from the cookbook that I thought our students would really like there. I used the nebula spin art, the galaxy circuit cards, which the official name is like exploding galaxy circuit cards, and the Chandra X-ray recoloring the universe, as well as a DIY women in STEM zine. Our highest impact program there were the circuit cards and the spin art. One, because the spin art is a huge mess. And our students really respond very well to messy STEM and STEM that I can sneak in a learning objective. If they don't know they're learning something, they're having a lot of fun. So the nebula spin art, you can see it in the photo, they were amazed. Those two boys, they're a part of our video game club. All they're interested in is video games, but they made about 5 little different nebula spin arts for themselves. They were so enamored by it. And then our Galaxy circuit cards, they really enjoyed that too. It was using copper tape, a little battery coin, and then little LED diodes that we would poke through a little like postcard of a galaxy, and they got to light it up and then learn about that distinct galaxy. There at that site, this was during summer school, so our number of students impacted was 15. Still a lot of students for the summertime, and I'm very proud of that. Next slide, please. And here's some more photos of our girls at King Drew. Really, really loved that spin art. That was a huge, huge success for that. Next slide, please. And then at 186th Street, this impacted 3rd grade through about 6th grade. I did the Galaxy circuit cards there, as well as the Chandra X-ray Recoloring the Universe, which that one, the Chandra activity, was kind of like a bingo game where the students were given the task to do a little bit of math from very simple raw data from a Chandra supernova. And the students got to create and color their own little picture, and they loved it. These are my Galaxy circuit cards. Absolutely loved it. I didn't think our youngest would be able to do it because they do shut down very quickly, but they surprised me. And they surprised me so much that on the right-hand picture, the gentleman all the way in the back, he exploded with so much interest that I learned his grandmother works at NASA and he wants to be an astronaut. So he taught all of the other students about it. And I was just like, okay, kiddo, take away the lesson. There at that site, I impacted 19 students. Next slide, please. And so with those 2 events, I did have a few lessons that I learned, and maybe you can take away from my failings, one of which would be training additional staff so that I could reach more than the 15 and 19 kids. It was just me that ran the 2 programs. I also had to consider the time constraints. Our programs are only run for 1 hour each. Sometimes our lessons are 15 minutes and the kids are just done. Sometimes it's a 2-hour project, it's a multi-day project. So I really had to focus on which lessons and activities from the cookbook I could use that could fit real nicely into 1 hour. And I also had to really anticipate the learning level of our students. Our students do tend to skew a bit more illiterate, as well as they are not confident in STEM. So the nebula spin art and anything flashy like Galaxy circuit cards, the kids don't necessarily know that they are being taught something like they are in the regular classroom. But it appeals to that messy side, that really curious side, and I can really impact those kids there. Next slide, please. And so here is the impact that we had. I'm so excited about these nebula spin arts. If you have not done it, it's incredibly messy and so beautiful, and I love it so much. The day of the event, the impact was, it was highly, highly engaging and educational. I do often hear kids say, this is boring, STEM is so boring. They were like, no, this is great. Can you come back? Can we do this again? I don't want to leave. I also really saw our youngest students where we forget that they're like sponges. They're so smart and they bring their own knowledge and passion, like that young gentleman who already knew about galaxies and supernovas. He was kind of our expert matter for that day. And it also inspired some students. I did have some girls who responded saying they want to be an astronaut one day. They want to work at NASA because they heard that grandma was working at NASA. And the post GSAWN event impact, I wasn't expecting an impact to be made afterwards, but after my other school sites saw how fun these kids were having, our like permanent 7 school sites ran Astronomy Week, which was in September. They used the GSAWN and the NASA cookbook lesson programming, and it was a smash hit. So much that the students reported it is their most enjoyable lesson so far this year. And that's what I work for. I don't work for students to become scientists or anything. I can't force kids to do anything, but I try to make these safe spaces for students to have fun, make a mess, learn how to clean it up, and maybe learn something, but most of all, for them to feel safe to ask questions that they might feel are dumb, and they're not. So I'm really, really excited about that post impact that I saw. Next slide, please. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Candid may be frozen. Oh, go ahead, Candid. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. Up next, we have Matt from South Brunswick Public Library.
How y'all doing? Thank you so much, first of all, to NGCP for letting us do this. This was an awesome experience. We can go right to the next slide, actually. So South Brunswick Public Library is we're a public library in Central Jersey, fairly large, 47,000 in population and growing. Sort of unique population in our area. We're over 50% Indian and South Asian. Lots of kids. We have 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and a high school, and they're all pretty much filled to the brim. So we get a lot of kids here at our library. Oh, I just tried to swipe to the next thing. But we're lucky. We have a pretty good infrastructure in place. We have a pre-existing series of tween events with a specific tween librarian who was able to help me kind of coordinate this and run them. So we had a good infrastructure in place. Next slide, please. So what we wanted to do was, and I apologize for the format, I built it in Canva and then it got all messed up. But we wanted to do instead of one big event, we did a 4-week series promoted and aimed at tween girls. Now, having said that, we didn't, turn anybody away. Anybody that registered for the event, boy, girl, anything, we took, we're happy to serve them. But it was promoted towards tween girls, and most of the people that signed up were girls. We did 3 hands-on activities and 1 meet and greet with a NASA expert, which was fantastic, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And the poster we made in Canva. Clearly, I like Canva a lot. But we had a good response to that. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I really can't stress this enough. Everything that we did, we pulled from the GSAWN program cookbook, from NASA's Universe of Learning. They're such great resources. We actually, as we were going through them, preparing for the grant, we had to just pare down the things that we wanted to do. So we focused on things that we were comfortable with. So maybe something that we'd done before, but could do on a larger scale, and then made them into a far too detailed outline that you can see over there. But there's such good resources, and I cannot stress enough to feel free to utilize them. Next slide, please. So our first event we called Exploring Light in Space, and we wanted attendees to learn how we see through space, how light works in space. The cost there is our overall cost for all the weeks. I did not blow all of our budget on one event at the start. That would be insane. So I think this one costs maybe $200 total, but we also had a lot of professionally printed materials for the James Webb Space Telescope models, which you don't necessarily have to do that. But we did the light reflecting glasses, LED strip, and so the QR codes there will take you to each project that we've done. Next slide, please. So we watched a video at the beginning, which I'll go into later. But then we taught them about the infrared spectrum and how we see through space using that and estimate what is out there. And as you can see by the yellow arrow there on the bottom, some of the kids got far too close. and I am far from a responsible adult. So I just kind of let them. And they enjoyed it, and then they made their space telescope. We had to make predictions based on the video we watched about what they thought they would see when they looked through the refracting glasses, and then what they did see, and they had a really good time with that. Next slide, please. Our second one, and I won't go too far into this because Lindsay already kind of did this, but this is our light up exploded stars. This is the paper circuit craft. I love this. The kids have a really good time. It's not terribly expensive to do. Ours cost $80 total, but we had materials left over that we can use for another time. But all it takes is LEDs, copper foil tape, batteries, and again, we printed some things professionally, so you don't have to do that. Next slide. So again, I won't go too much into it. You've seen it already. It's fantastic, and the kids love building a little electrical circuit, completely safe, and it looks beautiful at the end. Next slide, please. So sorry. Our NASA meet and greet was fantastic. I really cannot stress enough. It's free. They're happy to do it, and the experts they bring about are fantastic. But for this, we wanted somebody. Actually, I had an idea at the beginning. I wanted to bring in somebody that we worked with before, and we ended up going a different route and asking through the channels for another expert. And Sarah Rossborough was phenomenal. We had her come on and talk about career opportunities in STEAM fields, notable women in NASA history, and how our kids can kind of shape their path to a future in STEAM fields. But we got a lot into her own experience and barriers that she's faced and obstacles she's overcome and how she feels about that and where she sees the future going. It was honestly, this was my favorite thing that we did for all the hands-on stuff, for the kids to be able to, and she was so great to interact with them. This lasted for a while. The YouTube video is there, it's online. We won't watch it right now, obviously. But again, absolutely, even if you don't have a budget, request an expert to come talk either in person or on Zoom. It's a great experience. Next slide, please. So, our last event was our least expensive, and it's something that we've done before, but to be able to put a NASA spin on it was really cool. So we did binary code bracelets. So first we watched a short video about why coding is important to NASA and how they communicate with rockets using code. And then you can go to the next slide, please. All we needed was beads and lanyards. We showed them, how binary code works, and had them kind of make their own message in binary code and put it on their bracelet. And you can see they're just really proud of what they've done. Anytime they get a chance to create something like that's theirs and they personalized it, that's always a big deal. They love that. So this was a really fun event, and again, not terribly expensive to do. Next slide, please. All right. So adjustments and advice. If you're going to request an expert, request early. The reason I say this is because it took a while for someone to get back to me. I'm sure it's just they get a lot of requests. NASA's got a lot going on, I'm sure. But when they get back to you, trust me, they know who they're sending you. They know what they're talking about. And again, cannot stress enough, that was just such a great experience to deal with. Be Patient with Bill is more for anybody who does apply for the grant. I won't go too far into it. Just if Bill is the service that they use for sending the grant. You just have to be patient. It takes time. If you have people like my organization that have a lot of people above you that deal with money, make sure that everybody above you in the channel knows that it's coming. Clearly, make sure your materials work together. Our binary code bracelets, again, we've done this before. We bought really cute beads. We bought lanyards, and we checked it. The beads didn't fit on the lanyards. And so we sent the lanyards back, got new lanyards, which is fine, no problem. But if you do that the day of the event, it's a nightmare. So thankfully, that didn't happen to us. This one, get extra volunteers and staff if you can. We did this with generally one staff member each, and it was fine. We were fine. Volunteers always help. But as I was thinking about it, what I would have done differently and what I would suggest in the future if you have access to it, we have a really good teen volunteer network at our library. And to be able to bring young women in, teen girls in, to volunteer for this sort of thing with an interest in STEM, in NASA, in astrophysics or outer space or what have you. Just to have our tween girls have somebody to look up to and say, and even if they're like not that much older, but just to see like, oh, she's like me, and she likes this too. So my daughter is very into outer space and NASA, and I think she's very excited about this. But every now and again she'll feel weird. Sorry, I see a question that comes. What's tween mean? For us, tween is like in between age. So like fourth to seventh grade. So like not quite a teenager, not quite a kid. They're kind of in the middle there. But for them to have somebody to look up to, it makes them feel less weird. Not that they're weird, but kids are mean and they can make you feel weird. And so having, an older person to look up to and say, all right, that could be me is nice. And keep video presentations short. Our first event, I showed a video at the beginning and was like, I'm losing them. I'm losing them. Our attention spans aren't what they used to be. So definitely keep it short. I would definitely recommend that. Next slide, please. Yes. The good, the fantastic. NGCP, your support, your communication, incredible. Down below, that's like, and this is like 2 weeks ago, so it's even worse now. All of the worse in a good way. That's like all the email communications. Like I just did a search for GSAWN in my email, and there's like everything that popped up. Like if I had a question, if I had a comment, if I needed feedback, they were there for me. So I'm sure if you're doing something, if you have questions, if you need help, reach out to them. They're really awesome people and they're really happy to help. They believe in what they're doing. It's just been great. Again, NASA knows how to pick their experts. Definitely go for that. And thank you so much again for everything.
Thank you, Matt. Such a great presentation. And thank you for the shout out. We love to over communicate in a great way. So up next, we are gonna have Lindsay Woody from Sequatchie County Public Library. And Lindsay, let me know if I didn't butcher that up real quick.
I think it's
Thank you,
Laura.
Candace.
Yeah, go ahead.
Laura.
It is. Yeah. I'm Laura Woody. Thank you. I'm the Assistant Director of the Sequatchie County Public Library. If you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Did I cut out?
We can still hear you. We can hear you, see you.
Okay. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. We're in Sequatchie County, Tennessee. The city of Dunlap is the little dot there. We have just under 70,000 residents, and we get more from neighboring counties. We're very rural, so anybody nearby stops at our library. And we've been in our building is historic, and we've been in the same place for over 60 years. Like everyone else, during the COVID shutdown, we stopped everything. And we actually didn't get back to having programming until the spring of 2022. This summer was the first time we offered teen and tween programs. Go ahead to the next slide, please. But this summer, they were a really big hit. The grant from Girls Steam Ahead with NASA, we planned 4 programs, and they were to start just after our summer reading program. They'd be on Tuesdays. We actually talked to teens and tweens that were coming to our programs in the summer and asked what day would be great for you guys and what time. We spent the $400 stipend on 5 referral books, which we're going to use to let the kids do some of the online NASA activities and programs. And we used what was left to print posters from the NASA's Women in STEM collection, so that we would have material to display to the kids, and everything else was provided by our library and our friends at the library.
Can you go to the next slide, please? Our program plan was pretty straightforward. We wanted each session to build on the last. So we started with the binary lessons that are in the cookbook. Then we progressed to how it translated into pixels or pixels to images. That's also in the cookbook. We'd have to take breakout sessions to do some of the other activities that were going on, because we only have 4 main computers and then the 5 refurbished Chromebooks. So if we had more than 9 people, we needed to have a plan to let some people work on the electronic activities and have some hands-on activities for everyone else to do. I had never done team working programming before. I mostly did toddlers and preschoolers before this. So my first time with older children, that was quite a different experience for me. All programs we chose, except for the black hole activity, which is what we were going to do as a breakout on our 4th session in August. All of those were from the cookbook, and we could not have gotten that done without it. I had no idea how hard or how easy to make things for teens and tweens because, like I said, I'd worked with toddlers. So this was all very new to me. So we were ready to go, and if you'll go to the next slide. As our summer reading program came to a close, we started marketing this program. We told families that were coming to our programs about what was going on. We advertised in the paper with posters in our community, and we posted reminders to sign up on our Facebook page and website. Can you go to the next slide, please? Oh, sorry. I got ahead of that one. Can you go to the next slide, too? This is some of the activities we did. The binary activities came straight from the cookbook. The kids really enjoyed the pixel to image so much that we actually expanded it to make pixel art. You can see a Minion and Pikachu down at the bottom. Those were using cutouts of construction paper and a large piece of poster board. And the inflatables on the far end are from one of our STEM kits. The kids really enjoyed those activities. I'm afraid I can't show you a lot of the pictures we have of our kids. Many of our participants are in foster care, and there are very strict rules about showing their pictures anywhere. And if you go to the next slide, please. So we had some problems. I got an email on May 8th announcing the winners of NASA's Astrophoto Challenge and that the next photo challenge would end on July 31st, which we had planned to do that photo challenge day on August 1st. So clearly we had to rethink our scheduling. I would advise you consider you can't control the day times and if you're going to do something that has a deadline like the challenges, start it early just in case the deadline shows up in the middle of your programming. Next slide, please. And unfortunately, we had another problem. Some very severe thunderstorms affected 2 of our sessions. Session 3 had to end very early because severe weather arrived and everybody wanted to get home early or before it got worse. And our last program had to be completely rescheduled because we closed early that day for the storms. Unfortunately, because of our new date, several of our supplies were moved around, and with our summer reading program things being put away, they got put into storage, and we couldn't get to them the next week for our black hole activity. So we kind of had to get on the fly, and if you'll go to the next slide, we had to revise our programming plan, and we decided one session wasn't going to be enough to play with all the tools and do the Astrophoto Challenge. So we introduced that first and then let our kids experiment with the tools while everyone else did the hands-on activities, which for that day was the binary pins. Then we added working on those photos while we also talked about using the micro observatory and letting kids pick their targets so that we could use that later in our programming. One group would finalize their astro photos and submit them while everyone else was working on those large scale pixel to image activities we made. And session 4, we planned to look on the astrophoto challenge entries on the big screen, but the lightning got our TV, and so we couldn't show it on our big screen. Instead, we used a kit we have from Penworthy to make our last activity hands-on about the solar system. We're a very small library, and we have 3 full-time staff members, so having the Girls Steam Ahead with NASA cookbook to help us plan everything and keep it age appropriate and keep the activities engaging for that age group was incredibly important and incredibly nice. Go ahead to the next slide. I think I've talked over that one again. Sorry. And a little friend, actually, the binary on this I did not do. One of our little friends wrote a thank you note, and he wrote it in binary because he enjoyed the writing in binary so much. So thank you very much. We really have enjoyed this process. Unfortunately, I won't be involved in the team programs after this. Someone else will, but thank you very much for your help with this. This was great and a wonderful experience.
So much, Laura, for your presentation. And thank you everyone for sticking around. No, we're getting close to the 3:30 mark, but we have one more presentation and we'll get to questions as well. So I'd like to bring to the stage Lisa Brumall of Anna Porter Public Library.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Lisa Brumall, and I also credit this PowerPoint for my director as well, Mandy, because without her, I couldn't have done all these activities and without all the help of you guys. I made a slide of our address. We're at 159 Mills Park Road in Gatlinburg. We are a small little library. Next slide, please. Our mission is to strengthen our community through literacy and lifelong learning by providing equal access to materials for everyone. We're not only a place to come and read, we're a center of discovery and creativity and empowerment. Next slide, please. The Anna Porter was a young lady that developed the library. She said, send me your books, for the children of Gatlinburg have nothing to read. Over 4,805 people have library cards in our community. 639 of those cards belong to children. Since last June, we attained 100 more children have received library cards, a significant growth over the years. Next slide, please. Gatlinburg was founded in 1806. We are located in eastern Tennessee. We have a year-round population of 3,726, and during tourist season, which is March through January, the population increases to more than 40,000. Next slide, please. We are known for the Smoky Mountains, the Smoky Mountain National Park, which 12 million visitors every year, which there's 12 million visitors each year. Black Bears, the largest arts and crafts community in the U.S. with over 100 artists. We are home to Dolly Parton and the birthplace of Cormac McCarthy. Next slide, please. So for our first event, we had 23 students come out to the event. 75% were of those students were girls. The students learned about binary coding and our binary code and how spacecraft send true color planet pictures by using only ones and zeros. The students crafted binary code bracelets and pins. They used different colors for the beads to spell out their names. Next slide, please. We also included in our first event, we played multi-wavelength bingo with the students. This interactive activity allowed students to learn about the cosmos, explore electromagnetic spectrum, and how we use it to understand the stars. We also did PowerPoint presentation. We did some handouts, and we also showed a short video, which really engaged the students and participants during this event. Next slide, please. For our second event, which was August 17th, we had a guest speaker. We had 16 students, 75% of them were female. They loved our guest speaker, who was Dr. Martha Saladino. She was our subject matter during the Zoom call. She was the talk of after the meeting. There was nothing about how the students talked how great she was. The students were interested, they were engaged. Dr. Saladino was amazing, and this, just answered the questions and that the students had, and they really, really enjoyed this second event that we had. Next slide, please. So what the students did was we used the Stellar Life Cycle bookmarkers out of the cookbook, which was an amazing asset for our events. The students utilized their knowledge by gaining what they gained and learned from our subject matter expert, and made bookmarkers, and it showed them a hands-on approach of what they were learning. Next slide, please. So some of the feedback was a student stated, "I learned more in 2 hours than I learned all last year at school." And that was after Dr. Saladino's talk with them via Zoom. Students also stated they have more of an interest in science, astronomy, and engineering. And students would like to have more programs based with having like subject matter experts to come to the library and speak with them. Next slide, please. So the marketing strategies that we did use, we utilized social media. We did send emails to the schools to inform them of the events. We developed flyers and posters, and we also utilized the posters that we saw on NASA's Universe of Learning website. Next slide, please. So those were one of the posters on Canva that we made, and I just wanted to show an example of that, of what we did. Next slide, please. And then for literature, we did have books. We put up the posters. It showed, the students engaged and picked up the books and checked them out and learned more about the women in of science. And they loved that display as well. Next slide, please. So advocating for GSAWN. NASA's Universe of Learning makes it simple to plan and execute programs and events using the resources available. On the Universe of Learning website, there are unlimited resources and contacts that are available to help you plan any kind of STEAM-related program or event. Materials, ideas, and access to experts made planning easy. The majority of activities are not complex and require a few materials, making it easy to design activities for school, libraries, scout troops, museums, and more. This is what we thought of, as a advocating. Under resource tab, you can search each theme and an audience type of resources and even dates of special projects. The activity guides, printouts, and links are all provided to you. And this was a wonderful program for our small little library. NASA couldn't have made it more easier. Girls steam ahead with NASA, and everybody was amazing. Next slide, please. Thank you for the wonderful opportunity.
Thank you so much to all the presenters for a great presentation. I know we're a few minutes over time, but we would still like to take 1 or 2 questions for the speakers if you have any. There's some in the chat right now asking about, these are great programs. Is there anything being done to facilitate students continuing the exploration of these topics after the programs conclude? I think that's a really great question. Will one of our speakers like to come off mute and answer if you have?
Take a second. So for us, it's a matter of when you go 4 weeks of something, you don't want to bump right up against it. So we like to let things breathe a little bit before we bring it back. One thing we are planning for in the future, just because we did get a really good turnout for just girls' STEAM programs in general. And we've done this similar things before, but we've never brought in Girls Who Code, not to bring on another organization, but we are bringing them in to do some events in the near future. But we would like to, do another series of events going along the space and astrophysics route. Maybe not necessarily just for girls, but maybe for everybody this time in the near future. So
thank you, Matt. And we'll have oh, go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
I was just thinking some of the girls would love to have Dr. Saladino come back and speak to them and just stay in that type of contact and and build on what they've learned over the event.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but we did have a good feedback. Judy said, thank you for all the speakers. I'm equipped with more ideas and approaches for the events. And I just want to say thank you, speakers, for sharing your successes and some of the bumps in the road. So that way people just have a realistic approach of, creating an event. If there aren't any more questions, I want to take this time, as I said, to thank the speakers. As a reminder, the recording will be available for sharing publicly. All registrants will receive a link to the recording and slides, and these will be posted on the NGCP webinar archive. So we do ask that you please complete the webinar survey to provide feedback as well as content ideas for future webinars. Thank you so much again and have a great day, and you'll find that link in the chat.
Thank you, Candid. And I know Martha also just wanted to thank everybody. Please, Martha, why don't you close us out?
Thank you very much, everybody. I was so excited to hear about all the amazing activities and programs you put together this summer and how you tackle everything that happened. You mitigate risks and then you made amazing events. Thank you very much. And I think that you also inspired many others in this call.
And lastly, there will be another opportunity for these awards coming up soon in the winter. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure everybody gets information on how to receive a mini grant to be able to host these programs. Thanks, everybody.